Hello and welcome to the Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to bring you some comfort, camaraderie, and conversation and keep you company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, the Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is being pregnant and chasing a 2 and a 3-year-old around. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have it any other way, but by Jove, my bump just got a whole lot heavier. And I am up and down like a jack in the box chasing those girls around. I am not complaining, but when you're feeling heavy, getting up from any seated position 360 times a day is no mean feat. And it was making me laugh how when I was pregnant with my first, just the sheer luxury of getting up on your own time is so different. I'd sit and I would feel all sorry for myself, binging Sex and the City, eating Cheetos to ward off the sickness, and moaning because I had to get up in the night to wee. Little did I know, being on someone else's timetable 24/7 is a whole different kettle of fish when you're pregnant. Where it's all good. How are we all? I am coming to you a little bit late this week as we've had illness in the house over the past few days. And as you know, as a mum, when a baby or toddler is ill, it's a 24/7 kind of thing, isn't it? So bless her, she's just been kind of on me the whole time. And don't get me wrong, when she's 2.5, the snuggles are few and far between. So I have enjoyed the snuggles. She's just been on my knee. And of a night, I try and put her in a cot, but she doesn't want any of it. She just wants to be on me, which is so sweet and lovely. But the chances of getting anything done is not happening. And like I said, when they're ill, you just want to be there for them, don't you? And that's the main priority. So unfortunately, the podcast has been pushed back a little bit this week, but luckily she's on the mend. She's getting better, and it's all good. So I'm coming to you on a Sunday for a change, and it's Sunday the 19th of January. And in the US, the U ahead went with a TikTok ban, didn't they? Now, I didn't think they were going to for some reason. I thought it would be overturned at the last minute, but they followed through and they have. So to my lovely American listeners, if you did follow me on TikTok, just a reminder that I'm also on Instagram, the Night Feed Podcast, and I share the same or similar content there. So go and follow. And I have a little favour, which is for you to tell at least one other mum you know about the podcast, because I've read that word of mouth is one of the best ways to get new listeners. So I would hugely appreciate it if you could recommend it to any other new mums that you think it might help. That would be amazing. So coming to you with some lovely news this week, we had our 20-week scan and we found out the gender of our baby. And I'm so excited to tell you that we're having a baby boy. We're both over the moon. Obviously, we didn't mind the gender either way. We just want them to be healthy and well. That's the main thing, isn't it? It's just icing on the cake that we get to experience having a little boy. It's funny because Jason spent this Christmas with Barbies and bows in his hair, so I think a little bit of masculine energy will be nice for him. But yeah, we're really, really excited. Baby's well so far, touch wood. And yeah, I'm so interested to see what the dynamic's going to be like with 3, with a little boy. By that point, we'll have a 4-year-old, a almost 3-year-old, and a baby. So that will be 3 under 5 content coming your way. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the newborn snuggles again. Obviously, the night wakings, I'll be right there in the trenches with you again from May. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that lovely news that we're having a little boy. I hope wherever you are that you're feeling okay. These nights can be so tough, and I just want you to know you're not alone. I've had a few different chats with mums over the past week or two, and so many of us are going through night wakings with toddlers, co-sleeping with toddlers. I have to build myself a pillow fort at the moment in bed because our 2-year-old is pretty much always in bed with us at night, and my 3-year-old jumps in as well. And those little toddlers, when they're dreaming, can be quite feisty with the kicking. So I'm having to protect my bump with pillows. I'm essentially getting kicked from the inside and outside at this point. Now we're back into the January swing. Christmas this year felt like 3 weeks to me, which was so lovely. But we're back into the nursery run now, back into that structure, which I think last week we were all still adjusting to. I slept in with the girls last week on one of the days, and let me tell you, getting a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old out the door in 20 minutes from bed to pram is no mean feat. I was like begging with them to eat the breakfast in like record speed. And then the journey there, I'd say, was up there with a HIT class. Plus, I'm 21 weeks pregnant. So, like I said, started to feel the weight a lot more now. Poor things. I was like an army major. Eat your hoops, eat your Cheerios. Come on, we've got to get dressed. We've got to get your shoes on. And they don't know we've slept in. They're just like, why is mummy a mentalist this morning? But we made it to nursery school. Just mild bit of running, but we did it. Lesson learned. Set alarm. And I'm not used to setting alarm, which I imagine a lot of you won't be used to setting alarm, because our babies are our alarms, and usually a lot earlier than 8. And it's a double-edged sword, because I do like an 8 a.m. lie-in. When they are prepared to sleep that long, I go with that flow. But yeah, I think it was 8:10 and we have to leave the house at 8:30. So yeah, it was a bit tight, but we made it. And what else I've got to update you on? Oh, I'm still on my social media detox. You'll be pleased to know. I haven't been on my personal Instagram in almost 3 weeks, and I don't miss it. My screen time is down. My head is clear. Let's see how long it lasts. Now, I came across a video the other day about a book that I thought you might be interested in by a guy called Daniel Amen, who is a brain expert. And you might have seen this circling around. I keep seeing like clips of podcasts he's been on. And his book is called Raising Mentally Strong Kids. And basically what he says is that the children of parents who are firm and loving do way better than the children of parents who are loving and permissive. So what he's saying basically is it's good to have firm boundaries and rules whilst obviously still being loving. And what he quoted saying was that I only do nice things for people who treat me with respect. And he says too often children can be very disrespectful and parents continue to pander to them. He also says we overdo for them. Something else he says is that if you do too much for your kids, you're increasing your self-esteem by stealing theirs. And he says that we develop mental toughness by solving problems. So, for an example he gave was that if his daughter went to school when she was younger on a freezing cold day without her jacket, which her mum had reminded her to take, no one was bringing it for her. No one was going to say to her, oh, I'll rush back, I'll go and get it for you. She was going to have to go to school and be cold when she went outside. And from this experience, she would learn, by Jove, I'm not going to forget my coat again, because she doesn't have someone there that's a constant safety net. And what he's trying to get across is if we are that constant safety net for our children and doing everything for them, there's no consequence. And when they get into the real world, they're going to be mentally weak. So he's arguing that in this generation, we overdo for our children. And if you think back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and I've talked about this in the past, different kinds of parenting, it was a lot more get up and go. You've got to do it yourself. You've got to solve this problem yourself. And problem solving is one of the best things you can encourage your children to do to develop that mental strength. Like, for example, he also said, when your child says they're bored, don't just try and fix it. He says to say, I wonder what you're going to do about it, and then don't say anything else and let them figure it out. That's his advice in those kind of situations. And it reminded me a little bit of my dad. Like when he was 8, I think around the age of 8, he would just take himself to school on a bus in inner city Liverpool and knew no different. And my nan and granddad were brilliant parents. They just had to work. So my dad had to get the bus as an 8-year-old in a city. Now to us, that's like, what? How could an 8-year-old get on a bus on their own and be okay? And I don't know whether now it's because roads are busier, we know more about the dangers out there, but there's a complete generational shift there. That's only the 1970s. It's not that long ago, really, when you think about it. But now the thought of letting a young child do those kind of things on their own is quite scary, isn't it? I can't imagine mine being allowed to play out on the street, really, because I'm scared of the amount of cars that go down it and how busy it can get. And I remember as a kid in the 90s, we'd be always on the street playing, climbing trees, and I love that part of my childhood. And it's how we kind of reclaim that freedom for our kids, letting them learn by making mistakes and not being caught every time. Now, we are parents of under fives, the majority of us. So there is a limit to how much we can test this when they're so young, isn't there? Like, obviously, babies and toddlers need a lot of decisions making for them. They need that safety net, of course. It's what age do they get to when you start letting them make their own decisions and making their own mistakes and learning from those mistakes? So yeah, his advice was firm but loving is the best kind of parenting. What do you think about this? I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on whether we are raising a mentally weak generation because we overdo. Do we overdo for our kids? And like I said, it's probably too early for us to know yet. We are raising babies and toddlers, so we do have to do a lot for them. But it's worth bearing in mind, isn't it, when we're in situations to maybe be a little bit more firm rather than, when they're bored or when they need something. It's getting them to figure it out and getting them to work things out from a younger age. Maybe that does help develop that mental strength. But let me know what your thoughts are. Email me, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, let's go into the emails. So this one says, this is called "The Pregnancy Tired is Worse Than Newborn Tired is a Myth." Hi, Charlotte. I was sold a dream when I was 8 months pregnant. I coincidentally had about 7 different people tell me how much better I'd feel when baby is here. No more being sluggish. That pregnancy tired is way worse than new mom tired. At first, as a first-time mum, I fell for this hook, line, and sinker. I can categorically say for me that newborn tired is on another level. My baby wakes every hour at 2 weeks old. I am in the trenches and it is full on. At least when I was pregnant, I could put my feet up in front of Desperate Housewives for as long as I wanted and then just wake in the night to pee. Is it just me or have I been sold a dream? Oh my goodness. I get you. I was putting my feet up watching Sex and the City when I was pregnant with my first. And yeah, as a first time mum, I have to agree that newborn tired is much more difficult than pregnancy tired, because I think when you're pregnant, you can control when you nap. Obviously, a lot of us have to work till we get closer to our due dates. It's not like you can just have a nap at work, but at least when you get home, if you need to sleep, you can sleep. But when you have a newborn, you're on their schedule, aren't you? And it's difficult because then the more kids you have, the pregnancy tired can be different. And for me, I think having a newborn with toddlers, I don't know if it's going to be, I found it easier with my second when she was born, because I think when you're running around with a bump, especially when you're like 7, 8, 9 months and you're running around after a toddler, it can get to that point where you're like, I just need this baby to come along now so I can move again easier and get around easier. But I think when you're a first time mum and it's your first pregnancy, definitely make the most of putting those feet up and resting while you can, because I agree that newborn tired is more difficult than pregnant tired. I think in other ways we get a bit more of a lease of life when we've had the baby. I think I got a little bit more energy, and I don't know where that comes from, considering you're hardly sleeping. But with the newborn baby, I do think you get kind of like a new lease of life in a way. But I have to agree that nothing really compares with those hourly night wakings. It is almost superhuman as a mum, having to wake and wake and wake and hardly sleep between wakings. I have to agree that is far more difficult than pregnancy tired. Next is a forum post which I found, and it says how to have sex when you have a Velcro baby. For those of us who aren't aware of the term Velcro baby, it's basically when the baby just wants to sleep on you. So I found a few pieces of advice if this is you in this situation. First one, our 12-week-old cries when she's put down, so we're basically unable to have sex without her screaming her head off. We've tried everything, 3 different swings, play mats, black and white cards, music, etc. Nothing works. She has colic, so I think we're screwed, figuratively. Next person says, you don't. Or you get a babysitter. Signed, 3 rushed sexual encounters in 10 months. Someone else has put, still trying to figure this out 1 year later. And someone else has put, same, it's ridiculous at this point. I was telling my sister how infrequent it's been, and she started giving me a pep talk about body positivity and relationships. I'm like, no, it's literally just my needy child. Someone else has said, no solution, just solidarity. 7 months postpartum here, and we've managed to do it twice. Somebody else has said, tell her she won't have a little sister or brother to play with. Maybe she'll understand. Apparently these 2024 babies are super smart. I don't know that my baby is a Velcro baby, but either way, when she's napping, I put her in a swing outside of our room with her favourite YouTube show and leave the door open so we can hear her. Miss Rachel, I'm not even joking, is the only way to get anything done with a Velcro 11-month-old. Lol. There you go. If that's something you're going through, maybe Miss Rachel is your saviour. Or another one, dancing fruit. Our youngest, when she was going through it at times, we put the dancing fruit on and it would hypnotise her. So maybe there's another one for you to try. The next email says, how do you go to the bathroom in public with a baby? Hi, Charlotte. I'm 3 weeks postpartum and I ventured to the local shopping centre the other day. I felt really proud all by myself with baby. However, I needed the loo whilst there, and suddenly dawned on me that my pram wouldn't fit in a cubicle with me. The disabled toilet in the area I was in was out of order, so I had to go to the furthest cubicle, leave the door open and pee. What do you do? I've been there as well. Furthest cubicle, leave the door open, hope no one sees. Yeah, it's a pain. It's a pain. I still don't think a lot of shopping centres and places accommodate mums with prams and baby well enough. The Trafford Centre near me is okay. It's just the toilets are few and far between when you're in there. And I actually had an incident, not long ago, very similar to this, where the family rooms were out of order. The disabled toilet, I think, was out of order or had a queue that was really long. And they have this sort of mum and child area where it's like 2 toilets and a kind of a sink in like an enclosed area. And even then I couldn't get the pram into the cubicle that was designed bigger so that you could, because I have a double pram, which usually fits through a standard door. So I had to do the same. I had to put them facing me and just wee with the cubicle door open and hope no one else walked in, which isn't great, is it? And I get it. They can't design all toilets for mums to fit in, but it needs to be taken into consideration more. Like the baby mum parking. It drives me mad. At the Trafford Centre, there's literally, I think, maybe 10 spaces on one of the car parks of like 3,000 spaces. And it's just really frustrating when you're trying to get 2 out. You can't even like park close to a wall on one side and get them out. You need a bit of space. And the same goes for toilets, doesn't it, in a way? So you have to be inventive. And mums are resourceful. So yeah, I think it's the furthest toilet cubicle trick. I think you did the right thing. If anyone else has this situation, has any golden nuggets, then drop me an email, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. Next tonight is what's trending. I came across something called Mums on Call, and I don't know if you've seen this, but quite a few videos have been popping up of these mums basically saying, my 3-month-old sleeps amazingly because I've been sticking to the Mums on Call books. And from what I've gathered, I've not read the books, but from what I've seen is they're basically filled with routines and schedules for babies, these books, from everything from like eating to sleeping. And it just teaches you, I think for each month the baby grows, to know when bedtime is, what wake windows are good, and their approach is, in the first instance, the later the bedtime, as the younger the baby, the later the bedtime, and as they grow, bedtime gets earlier, which is kind of what we did anyway. But so many mums are claiming that this structure is changing their lives. The schedules are set up to help baby sleep at night, basically. I think it may touch on sleep training, but I haven't read it, so I don't know for sure. But the gist I'm getting is that people are just mastering the routines in the form of sleep, eat, play. So scientifically, when they've been awake for so many hours at this age, they should sleep. And it's being really highly recommended. So it could be worth a look. It's called Mums on Call. I'll share it on my website so you can get the link. And again, like I said, it's just routines that if you follow for each month the baby grows, your baby should start to fall into that routine and have it help with a sleep. Because we did this with my first, when I learned about wake windows and routine, when she was about 4 or 5 months, it changed the game. It really changed the game, because until then I was just letting her sleep when she wanted, feed her when she wanted. And I think when they're newborn, you have to do that. When they are hungry, you have to feed them. When they are tired, they have to sleep. But as they get older, the more you can develop a routine that kind of is scientifically right for their age, the better the sleep. And I've experienced that firsthand, 100%. And I told my friend about it as well, and she looked into it and said it has helped her sleep so much. So sometimes it's not about, going down the cry out method or anything like that. Sometimes it's about routine. So could be worth a little look at. Tonight's self-care suggestion is get the classical music on. Now, don't roll your eyes if you're not into classical music, but you'll probably be thinking, why? Why would I do that? I had a moment in the kitchen the other day when the girls were playing up a bit at breakfast and I needed them to eat. I needed them to calm down before we got out the door. And I just said to Alexa, play classical music. And calmness befell the kitchen. It really did. It was like they were just scanning the room, like listening. And they sat. And they did have a moment, and it was like the music calmed them. And now I know this isn't going to work every time, especially when they're like wired on sugar, but it's sometimes just a nice change to put something like that on. And I do think it gets to them. I think then the sound actually has an effect on them. And even when you're on your own and you're having a moment and you're struggling and you can't switch off, put a bit of classical music on and see if it helps. And plus, it's good for brain development in kids. So winner, winner. Finally, to finish on a quote I wrote. I saw you sobbing last night, Mama. The second your head hit the pillow, I woke. After 2 hours of feeding, winding, and rocking, I was awake again. Instead of coming to me, you sat on the edge of the bed and wept. Daddy woke and came to me. You told him you were crumbling. He put his hand on your shoulder and said, get some sleep. Those 3 words never sounded so good. I watched as you sank into the mattress, waves of relief flooding through your body. Your eyes closed, chest rising and falling. There you were, getting the rest you so desperately needed. Daddy and I were just fine. He showed me the moon and the stars. He walked round the room with me until my eyes were too heavy to stay awake. This season can be hard, Mama, but it will soon be a memory. Stay strong. We've got this. Thank you all for listening tonight. Just a reminder, like I said, to my American listeners, you can find me on Instagram, the Night Feed Podcast, if you want to follow me over there. And yeah, if you can recommend the podcast to any mums you know, any other mums that you think would enjoy it, then please do. And I wish you all a restful, relaxing night ahead. Good night.